Everything wrong with my 500 horsepower STI. That's what we're gonna talk about today because it is currently 1 degree Celsius outside in Edmonton, which is where I'm from, if you guys are new to the channel. And that means that it is time for this car to go into storage. I know it's a Subaru. All you guys tend to tell me it's a Subaru, it's all-wheel drive. Why don't you drive the car in the winter? Well, let me show you. Oh my gosh, there's actually ice on the hood. That's how cold it's getting this fast. That is why I don't drive the car in the winter. This engine bay is so freaking clean with the engine bay paint, the powder coating. The whole underside of the car is completely undercoated. It got dry ice blasted. This car, to me, is the OG car of this channel, and I want to keep this thing forever, so I don't want to destroy this thing in the winter. I actually drove this car for like 2 winters in my ownership, and the previous owner drove it every single year in the winter. I already had to cut some rust out of it and weld new sheet metal in. I don't have to keep doing that with this car, so that's why she gets parked over the winter. The Civic back there hasn't moved in over a month, and we'll talk about that in the next video. But for now, let's focus on the Subaru. First thing wrong with the Subaru, this car is filthy. I've been daily driving the thing for the past 2 weeks, just trying to enjoy it as much as I can before the snow flies and before the weather gets too cold. But now we're at the point where it's too cold, so I gotta get this thing washed up, and then we're gonna start tackling the list of problems. And we're definitely not gonna get them all fixed today, but at least I can take care of a couple of the ones that have been bugging me while I've been dailying this thing for the last little while. You guys might also notice that we got a whole fence in the backyard now. I kind of talk about that stuff in the shop build videos. I didn't actually film any of the process building it because I thought you guys would be bored by it. It's not anything to do with the cars, but I'm just gonna quickly say that is why the content has been lacking on the channel. Now, we're done the fence. I'm done all my landscaping at the house. I'm done everything I need to do. The snow's about to fly. It's time to get to work in the shop. So as always, we're gonna kick today's video off with a good old cold start for the boys. As the flag says on the wall, you guys can grab your cold start for the boys on the somethingcoolco.com website. I'll put a link on the top of the screen. It is freaking cold outside, man. As I was pressure washing this thing, the water was literally freezing to the car as I sprayed it. So that took forever to wash. I brought it inside to dry it off and get it all wiped down. But now that we have the STI in the shop and it is warmer in here, we are finally gonna go over all the things that are wrong with my 500 horsepower STI. Because if I am gonna be completely honest with you guys, all I've done to this car all summer is change the oil at the beginning of summer. That's it. I only put 5,000 kilometers on this car all summer, but they were not easy miles. I drag raced this thing. I was trying to freaking drift this thing. I daily drove it for a couple weeks, and all I did was change the oil. We had 0 problems with this car all summer. And even though I say that we had 0 problems with the car, that's kind of a loose term because when you don't maintain a 500 horsepower car for over 5,000 kilometers, a lot of little things start to happen that you really, really need to keep an eye on and take care of. And there's a lot of those little things wrong with this car right now. I wrote down a small list on our little whiteboard over here, mounted on the toolbox, that I gotta dismount, flip, and rebalance the STI wheels. Don't make fun of my writing. I understand that it looks like a 4-year-old wrote this. And that's because if we're being honest, a 4-year-old would probably write neater than that. I got fixed drive shaft bolts written on here, and that is because the lock washers are literally spread out to the point where they're about to come loose. Fixed leak in STI tire. This is a funny one. If you guys saw our video where we went to Airdrie for the Tuner Bash event, I went to do a pass in this car down the strip and it literally had 5 PSI in the tire. And I'm pretty sure I drove all the way down to Calgary like that. Now I don't know where the leak is, but if you listen really, really closely, I can actually hear it leaking right against the water or something on the tire right now. It's a very slow leak, but it's still a leak. And that's annoying to have to air up your tire like every 2 days because it's got a slow leak in it. So if you guys watch the shop build videos, you would know we're able to fix that now. Because we went and picked up a whole tire machine and a wheel balancer. So we can take the wheels off of cars, remount new ones on, and balance them, which is such a convenient thing to have in my own shop. It was expensive, don't get me wrong, but we've been doing some tires for people on the side to try and repay it because YouTube doesn't pay enough to pay for any of this stuff. So that's pretty exciting, gives me a second way to generate some income and hopefully be able to do some of the activities that I have planned for next summer on the channel. Then off camera, I also built a shelf right here, which is awesome because I have space to store all the bead sealer, the tire patches, all that stuff in a shelf, and it keeps it nice and clean. And that shelf was gray before. I painted it black to kind of match the whole black theme that we got going on in the shop. So those are the first 3 things that are wrong with my STI. 1, there's a nail in the tire. 2, the drive shaft bolts are hanging on by a thread at this point. I'm gonna show you guys that once we get it up in the air. But the third thing is that at about 100 kilometers an hour, I got a gnarly shake in this car. The steering wheel shakes, the whole car vibrates, and I have not flipped these tires on the rims since I got them mounted on the car. I run -2.5 degrees camber on the car all around, so the tires are starting to feather on the inside from drag racing and spinning tires in this thing. So I gotta flip the tires on the rims because they're directional, so that instead of wearing the inner portion of the tread the entire time, we can wear this outer portion of the tread once we flip it over. That way we can get the maximum amount of life out of these tires, and they should wear half decently even. So when we're flipping these tires on the rims, we're gonna have to rebalance them, and I'm hoping that rebalancing these wheels is gonna take care of that shake. The other thing we're gonna take care of while we are dismounting and remounting these tires is something that I've hated on this car for so damn long: the valve stems that are on these wheels. They are a red valve stem that is so faded that they're basically pink at this point, or like white, and I think that they are so ugly. Along with my red lug nuts. I don't really like those either, but maybe the red lug nuts will look better once we get rid of the faded pink valve stem. So I'm just gonna swap them with some regular black rubber valve stems. Keep it convenient and easy.
Now let me show you guys this. First tire, you can see what I'm talking about. You see how this tread comes all the way out to the end like that? This is the outer portion of the tire. If you look at the inner portion of the tire, you can see that she is pretty worn out. It's cutting off like there. It's starting to wear the inside of the tire way heavier than the outside is. So we're just gonna flip the tire over on the rim so that this side is on the inside. And then this rim is gonna have to go on the other side of the car because they're directional. Next thing that I wanna mention that is wrong with this car is these brakes have been on the car since I bought the thing. They're Stop Tech, slotted rotors and pads. The pads still probably got about 4 to 5 mil left on them, but these rotors are so freaking warped. When you first drive the car and you hit the brakes, the steering wheel literally shakes so bad. But we're gonna take care of those next spring after the car comes out of storage. We'll get parts ordered up. So for now, let's keep going with the tires. Now that we got all 4 wheels and tires off the car, there's no better time to clean your wheels than when they're off the car. So we got some Stelter Solutions all-purpose cleaner, and I've actually never used this stuff. I've only used their speed coat, which works awesome on the exterior of the paint on your car. So I figured we'd save the speed coat for the car, and we'll try this all-purpose cleaner on the wheels. Because part of the problem with having Brembos is the brakes are too freaking big and you can't even clean your wheels properly. So we're gonna use this all-purpose cleaner and get our wheels completely wiped down, even though they are so rock chipped, you guys. Like, I used to live on a gravel road with this car, and even driving slow, they just got absolutely destroyed, which is another thing that's wrong with this car. And eventually, when I want to turn this thing into a show car and make it so nice that I don't even want to drive the thing, at that point, we will repowder coat these wheels and make them look perfect again. But right now, I'm having way too much fun with this car. So to me, it's not worth it to make the wheels look all fancy and nice if I am still gonna be beating the piss out of this thing on the road and having fun with it. Wow, that looks a million times better already. Now, you guys can see on camera, I circled the leak on the tire. We got a nail in it, so we're gonna get that patched up when we have the wheel off. But these inner barrels are absolutely filthy. These are also Stelter Solutions microfiber towels. They gave me their full product lineup at that Tuner Bash show, which I am so happy with so far. It has been working so well. Look at all that mud that's in there. To use like 4 microfibers to clean these things. And there we go, just like that, in a quick little 2-minute wash and some all-purpose cleaner, this wheel is completely cleaned up. First tire we're gonna flip and replace the valve stem on is the one that's got the nail in it. Pull. Just like that. Once you get that bottom lip up, same thing, just spin it. We got the valve stem all lubed up, thread it on, and pull. And just like that, we got some nice short rubber black valve stems. Clean, simple, effective. Holy, there is a nail in it. You can see right where the nail was because I circled it. So now what I gotta do is get that nail pulled out of the tire. We're gonna take a nice little wire wheel. We're gonna prep the surface out of the tire on the inside. Then we're gonna shove a plug patch through there and I will show you guys the finished product. There we go, boys. We got the patch in there. You can see what I meant by prepping the whole surface. I cleaned it all up around it. Got rid of all this roughness, made it nice and smooth. Put some vulcanizing cement on the tire. Patch goes straight through the tire like that. And now I got this stuff called security coat. It's like a tire inner liner sealer that you're supposed to put over the patch. And usually this stuff's black, but I got this new stuff that's like freaking purple. It's weird. It's pretty cool. All you do is just dab it over the top and it is supposed to help seal the patch. Now we're gonna flip the tire back over on the rim. Get some tire lube on the bead so that it goes on nice. We want our worn portion on the outside of the tire. So we're gonna go this way. Now this is the part where we definitely need 2 pry bars. Oh! Now I went and bought some black billet with plastic thread caps for my valve stems on Amazon. We're gonna see what they look like. Pretty silly, if I'm being honest. I don't really like those. Maybe they look better once they're on the car. But with a rubber valve stem, I think you should just have a plastic cap. Most important piece to the puzzle right now, did our patch work? Or do we still got a leak? So you spray it with soapy water and you check. And there's no bubbles coming out. So she is nice and sealed, boys. All you gotta do is give her a snip with the wire cutters and she's back to being mint again. Now we gotta balance these things. And I'm hoping this is the solution to our whole vibration problem that we've been having, because it's pretty damn annoying. Only 2 ounces, that ain't bad. So that's only 1 ounce on the outside. We're gonna spin it. See what it gives us now. Now it wants another ounce. 1/2 ounce on one side, 1/2 ounce on the other. And just like that, she should be balanced. Boom! Zeros all around. This rim is completely done and we should have 0 shaking on the highway. I'm excited. Now we're gonna test out this Stelter Solutions tire shine. See how nice it makes the tire look, because right now it is super faded. All right, those look pretty shiny. Spread it around with a microfiber. See how nice it makes them look. Holy, tires look just about as shiny as the wheels. I can't believe how good that looks, other than my freaking rusty rotors. Now the next thing I want to show is the chips on these wheels. Look at how bad these are. It's all around the outside, all over the inner spokes. Some of the ones like this one on the driver's front is even worse. I went ahead and touched it all up with a black paint pen. You can still see the specks, but at least they're black. So from a distance, you don't see a bunch of white dots all over the rim. So I'm gonna go ahead and touch up all of the wheels just as like a temporary fixed to make them look half presentable for now. But as you can see now on the tires, we got the outer worn portion on the outside of the tire. So we got lots of tread to wear on the inside now. So we can get some more life out of these tires. But look at how faded that tire looks. Then look at how shiny this tire looks. I mean, there's a lot of good tire shine products out there, don't get me wrong. And this is not a sponsored video, but these guys are a Canadian company. They're two young guys trying to chase their dreams, chase their passions, and created their own detail product line. And I'm all for supporting that. So like I said earlier in the video, I will link their website down in the description box below. You guys can go and grab this full line of detail product from them. One of my favorite things from them is the microfiber towels because they are so thick and absorb so much moisture that you only need like 2 microfibers. You can use one to wipe off all the water, the other one to dry it off, and you can clean your entire car with 2. Whereas with these cheap Canadian tire or whatever AutoZone rags you guys use, you go through like 5 of them to clean a car. Sometimes more than that. Depends how picky you are. But we got all the tires back on the car now. I'm gonna go through, tire shine them all up, touch up all the rock chips with a paint pen, and then I can get to showing you guys the next problem with this car. And hopefully throughout this video, we don't find more of them because that tends to happen sometimes. All right, I'm done touching all of the wheels up now. And from a distance, it looks good. But up close, you can definitely see all the little black touch-up spots. Another thing that's wrong with this car, I said I'd find more as I go, and I'm finding more. These center caps. I literally, quote unquote, painted those with a Sharpie. That's why they look so freaking terrible. And one day, I want to figure out how to paint them. But they're plastic, and I tried spray painting them, and it just will not adhere to the plastic. The paint just gets all bubbly and orange peely and looks terrible. Or maybe one day, I will buy new center caps. But I hate how expensive center caps are. Anyways, we are going to move on to the next thing that's wrong with this car that we can actually tackle and fix in this video. It's kind of sketchy. Hopping underneath the car, we're gonna look at the first thing that's not sketchy. This exhaust, the weld is cracked right at the muffler. So all of the water or carbon buildup or anything like that leaks right out of the exhaust at the muffler, which isn't a big deal, but this pipe where it comes into the muffler and attaches on the crossover inside of this cotton muffler, the tack welds are busted on it. I already had to fix the one on this side. Now the one on that side broke, so it is a little bit rattly at idle, which is super annoying. But this just goes to show that every race car that you see at car shows and stuff like that always has its own little issues. Now let's hop into the sketchy stuff. We take a look at the pinion flange here where the drive shaft bolts up to the pinion of the diff. Look at that lock washer on that nut. Like, how has that nut literally not just come off at this point? Another thing I'm gonna mention while I'm down here is the rear diff mount. You guys take a look at the bushing on the driver's side. She is nice and clean, not cracked or anything. If you look at the bushing on this side, it is pretty blown out. It still holds, doesn't cause any issues, but the boot looks like it is a little bit destroyed on the front. So there is some grease that leaks out of it. I don't actually notice anything bad while I'm driving, any clunks or anything like that. So it's still holding up for now, but that definitely needs to be replaced with like a Cusco mount or a Torque Solutions or something like that. All right, let's see if these things are loose. Good old 12 mil wrench. No, that feels pretty good actually. Those freaking lock washers are glued on there. Oh, there it goes. Look at that. That is not how a lock washer is supposed to look. Focus. Hocus. Focus. Look at that lock washer, boys. That is not what a lock washer is supposed to look like. It's supposed to be round, but the nuts are actually okay. So I think I'm gonna just put a new lock washer on there and we're good to go. Slide a new lock washer on there, put the nut back on it, and tighten her back up. I'm not gonna torque them, but I'm not gonna over tighten them this time to the point where it stretches the lock washer. I don't even know how that happened last time. Another one bites the dust. Give you guys a comparison real quick. Look at the difference. This one is expanded, this one is not. This angle's kind of spooky. You could just put a regular nut on here with like a washer face nut, but I do like the lock washers because it is a drive shaft and I don't want this thing coming loose. I don't know if you guys like your drive shafts loose, but I like me a good tight drive shaft. Now here's the problem. I freaking have the e-brake on, so I can't spin the drive shaft. I can't get off the top ones. We got every single drive shaft bolt tightened up with the proper lock washers now, and they are all good. I had to put the car in neutral so I could spin the drive shaft around, but we got those all dialed. Let's move on to the next thing wrong with this car, which I was gonna say is underneath this front tray, but there's a couple things wrong underneath there. So first, we're gonna start with this front bumper. This thing, looking from underneath, is freaking destroyed. We put this car off the track, smashed the whole front portion of this bumper and scraped it like crazy. And then this one was a little bit different of a situation. We hit a cat on the side of the road and it destroyed the lower portion of the front bumper and the tow hook. Good news is the fog light covers are still okay on both sides, so we don't need to replace those. Another thing wrong with the front end of this car, look at this ETS intercooler. There is white lines all over it. It's super faded. So I want to repowder coat this intercooler black and get the Something Cool logo right in the middle here in the front bumper. I also get so many people that complain that this car looks so plain because there's no body kit, there's no side skirt extensions or anything. So I did get a front lip. I don't want to put the front lip on until we get a new front bumper though. So that's another project for next spring, because I'm gonna get all these parts ordered up and we're gonna fix it all at once. So if you guys are subscribed to this channel for the Subaru, don't worry. There's gonna be content coming on the Subaru. I promise, boys. We're just going over all the problems right now. Now let's find our next problem, because I know there's more. Now, one thing I do want to mention as I'm pulling this off is I built this engine about 4 years ago. This engine was built, and then I pulled it apart and resealed everything about 3 years ago. New head gaskets, head studs, all that jazz when we built the car. And this thing is bone dry underneath, besides one leak that I just have never dealt with. And that's our one issue, or one of the two issues under here. Now I'm gonna grab the camera and give you guys a close-up of the underside of this car, because not many people see this car on the channel anymore. And this car has over 200,000 kilometers on it, and look how clean this is. All the little sugary coating stuff that you guys see here is all a wax coating. This whole underside of this car is wax coated by Sublime Surfacing. That's why there is like no rust anywhere under here, because it all got dry ice blasted off and this got wax coated. So the only problem we have on this car, as you can see, valve covers pretty much bone dry, head gaskets bone dry, all the coolant ports are bone dry, crank pulley's rusty, which really annoys me because we don't have an AC belt on there. But underneath here is freaking bone dry, boys, except for right there. There is one little tiny oil leak up there. And that oil leak is gonna be very hard to show, but it is coming right behind the axle there from the oil drain off the turbo. And that's because the oil drain line that comes right off the back of the head there, I had to modify from the ETS kit. So I had to cut that fitting off, put my own soft PCV hose on there. And what happens when you do that is I cut the little rolled out section of that hose out. So the rolled out section, you're supposed to put the hose clamp right next to that, and that's actually what seals your soft line to hard lines when you hose clamp them. Now when I built that hose, I thought it was gonna be fine because it's coming downward, but turns out a little bit always leaks out. Which honestly, for the last 3 years, I've been able to live with, because if you guys look at this under tray, it is completely bone dry. It doesn't even leak enough to drip on the under tray. So all I've been doing is each oil change, I just come in here, brake clean off all the oil to keep it nice and fresh down there, and that's it. So the only way to really fix that issue would be to pull the oil drain off the turbo. I would have to get one of those rolling tools. I would have to roll a little bead on that oil drain line, and then I guarantee you that thing would never leak again. So that's a project maybe one day we'll take care of. But this video is just about everything that's wrong, because I'm being open and honest with you guys that not every build is perfect, and there's always gonna be little flaws. But if you take care of the little things one by one, eventually you can chase perfection. But if you're gonna drive the car and beat the wheels off the thing and have fun with it, it ain't gonna be perfect. I hate to break it to you guys. And that is what we do with this car. We have fun. Next problem that is weird as hell, and I honestly cannot explain it. I swapped the power steering rack in this car with a 2015 to 18 STI rack, and it's been completely flawless in the car the whole time. The steering ratio is way tighter. I think it's 16:1 versus the 2010 STI is 32:1. But I got one boot on this side that over the last like year has started doing this, and I don't understand why. The boot
got like swollen or something, or it's like expanded and it's touching this bolt. So when I turn the steering wheel and this tire is facing out, you guys can see it's not too bad. It doesn't rub that bad, but on this side, it's actually touching the freaking subframe. And the boot looks like it's seated where it's supposed to be on the inside. And the clamp also looks seated on the outside. Especially if I compare to the left side of the car, that looks the exact same. And that looks the exact same. Maybe I just need to reboot this rack because the rack's not leaking, but it could be a result of that oil drain line leaking down from the turbo. It could have maybe swelled this boot or something like that. But I've been driving it for like the last year with the boot like that, and it has not torn the boot yet, which is pretty shocking. The last thing that is wrong with this car underneath is the front sway bar. Have a listen to this. There's quite a bit of play in this sway bar link. This thing has, I don't even know how many miles on it at this point. They're the stock sway bar links. The bushing, you can obviously see that the sway bar moves side to side. Those bushings are worn right out too. Also, just for comparison, since the camera's here, take a look at that power steering boot. You see how compressed that thing is while this is all the way turned in? Nice and compressed. Let's take a look at this side once we compress it. Look at that. It's like all swollen on the bottom for some reason. I don't get it. The next thing I want to talk about that is broken on this car is on the exterior. Now, if we take a peek at these taillights, they look good from a distance, but one of them actually has tuck tape on it. So you look at this taillight here, it is actually broken, and I just have a piece of red tape covering where it's broken. I have a replacement taillight. All I would need to do is replace this one right here by the exact same wrap that I have on here and then rewrap the taillight. But I have been so reluctant to do it because I will pop a photo on the screen of the taillights that I really want for this car. I just couldn't pull the trigger on the 600 and some bucks to do it because in this tote right here, I know that I have a replacement taillight that all I would need to do is spend 90 bucks and wrap it because this one is ugly, which is cheap and easily doable, but I just can't freaking decide. Then on the inside on the tailgate, there's one little trim piece right here. All it is the cover for the trunk. That's broken. I just need to find a parts car that has this and I can replace that piece and then it's mint. It rattles around like crazy when I'm driving. Next thing on the back end of the exterior, and this comes with track driving nice cars. There's that whole saying where every track car is a show car, but not every show car is a track car. That is true. This is a track car. It can be in car shows, but it doesn't win awards at car shows, specifically because of things like this. I already mentioned how chipped the wheels were, and you guys can see that paint is kind of drying. They still look terrible. But if you guys take a look at the paint on this car, you can see these rear quarters are so chipped. I used to live on a gravel road. I drove like 15 kilometers an hour all the time. You can see the difference between the nice glossy paint on the door, and then you move over to this quarter panel and it is rock chipped like crazy. And speaking of rock chips, another imperfection that this car has, which doesn't usually get noticed at car shows because the hood's always open, I got an absolute dinger to the hood on this car from a semi truck right there. I touched up painted it, but you guys can see how big of a freaking dent that is. I'm sure you could try and PDR that, but it's such a sharp dent that I think you would need to fill that and then sand and paint the whole hood again. Now I'm gonna set the camera up in front of the car here and show you guys the next thing that is wrong with this car. Not necessarily the problem, but it's something that I hate. We got our nice LED low beams, and then you flick the high beams on, and they're still halogens. But lucky for me, we got a LED conversion kit from Colite. Now, if you guys want, I will put a link down in the description where you can grab this same LED conversion kit for your STI. I already have these on my Civic and I love them. They're super bright and they are a complete plug and play install, which everybody loves. I will leave a link in the description. You guys can save some money on your order because who doesn't like saving money? So we are gonna remove the stock halogen one, which is just as easy as a twist and a pull, and unplug it. We got our Colite LEDs. Again, we literally just plug right in. Easy as that. Now we get these put into the headlight housing and then twist them in just like you twisted in the halogen ones. And boom, just like that, it fell right in. We got LED high beams and low beams. So this thing doesn't have yellow frickin' lights anymore.
And you guys can see on the wall, they are nice and bright. And as you can see out the door, it's already dark outside, so we're gonna be taking this thing for our final drive before we put in storage for the winter, and we'll have nice bright LEDs. And now for the last problem that we can actually fix in today's video, and hopefully this fixes my problem, a boost sensor, which I've been having issues with for a while. When the car gets hot or I drive it for a long time, my AEM boost gauge will get pinned at like 25 pounds of boost, and it is just not reading properly at all. So I went ahead and picked up a 50 PSI sensor. We're gonna get the old one pulled out, swap the barbed vacuum fitting onto this one, plug it in because it's already pinned for the proper connector because I already have an AEM boost gauge in there, and it should be as easy as that. Then we're gonna take this thing for a drive, make sure everything works. So all we really need to get this job done is an 8mm to take off our intake on the turbo. And then our boost sensor is tucked right here. Super easy to access. I just gotta disconnect the connector, cut the zip tie that I have holding it on, and it comes out just like that. Nice and easy. Take a look at that, boys. They are both 50 PSI sensors. Hopefully this fixes our problem. I'm gonna get this nipple swapped over, put some thread tape on this guy here, and get it reinstalled. Boost sensor is replaced. That was a nice like little 2-minute replacement. That's a nice part about building your cars yourself, is that you know where everything is and you can make stuff really easy to get at and replace and service as you're building the car. Now there's one last thing that I need to show you guys before we take it for a drive that I really hate with this car, and it's something that's been wrong with this thing for a long time. I tried redoing it and it all ended up peeling in certain spots, and I'm not happy with it. So it was a learning lesson. I really need to practice with this next time and not rush it and prep all of the panels properly, but I'll just show you. On the inside of this car, we wrapped all of the trim panels with a carbon fiber wrap off of Amazon. But if you take a look at any of the kind of intricate sections like this, you can see it is all peeling and looks terrible. This one here on the door looks really good. It's not peeling. And then if you look at down by the shifter, you can see this whole edge is lifting right there. So this is my dream look on the inside of this car, is to have all these panels carbon fiber. We also have an Idoing head unit on the way for this thing, which we are gonna replace next spring. So if you guys wanna snag one of those in advance, I'll put a link in the description to the head unit for this car as well, because this Pioneer one's just not cutting it anymore. It doesn't have Apple CarPlay. It's not as fancy. I installed this thing back in like 2018 or 19, so it's due for an upgrade. So that is pretty much everything that is wrong with this car, down to the smallest little tiny things that only I would know and other people won't see at shows or at meets or at anything like that. But it's something that I know about personally, so if you guys build your own cars, you would know. It bugs me. Back when I initially built this car, we were having a bunch of issues with it getting locked out of 4th and 5th. I ended up finding that the plug fell out of the transmission for the clutch fork. The clutch fork was like half out, so my throw-out bearing wasn't fully disengaging my clutch. And I was shifting in 4th and 5th the most because I was driving this car on the highway a lot. So that is why 5th gear got destroyed so fast. So that's gonna be it for this video, you guys. The last thing I will mention is that Something Cool Co does have a merch drop that just went live right at the start of fall. It's the whole Chase Your Passion merch drop. And I released this merch drop with the motive to tell you guys to not give up, chase your passion, whatever it is that you guys are passionate about. You don't have to get sucked into the boring lifestyle of your routine everyday lifestyle that everyone lives. They're boring 9 to 5s. Sometimes you do gotta work your 9 to 5s to pay the bills. I still work a 9 to 5 job, but when I get off my 9 to 5 job, I start chasing my passion in my 5 to 9. And this drop is to encourage you guys to do that as well. So if you guys support the builds or anything like that, I'll put a link in the description to the Something Cool Co website. If you guys are subscribed to the channel, use the code subscriber5. It'll save you guys 5% off at checkout. Especially on these cold start for the boys flags. We got lots of these left on the website still. So that's gonna be it for this video, and that is gonna be it for the Subaru for 6 to 7 months. Peace out, you guys. Let's go for a drive. For those of you that hung around for the end of the video and you guys are seeing this, it looks like we fixed the boost gauge issue. I'm only going 70 kilometers an hour, so I don't know if the wheel shake is fixed, but the car definitely feels like it's driving straighter. It's not pulling anywhere. I think having a little bit of camber wear on different tires tends to cause it to pull different directions, and it's driving awesome now. But our boost gauge, 21 PSI there. Just a little 3rd gear tiny ripper. So we'll get a 2nd gear ripper here. £22. I feel like this car before wouldn't hit 22 pounds on like a regular pull like that.
It was like 21, and this thing's tuned for around 22 to 23, so maybe that sensor was a bit off. This turbo sounds so good, even with the intake. Not as loud of a stu-tu-tu-tu-tu as when you just have the filter right on the turbo, but it still sounds good. It's always sad at the end of the year when I gotta park this thing. But let's see what happens to this boost gauge on the highway. We got a red light here. I'll turn the lights on. Let's see if the steering wheel shakes so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Sometimes once the brakes are warmed up, it doesn't. Oh, it's not shaking, but I can feel a little bit of vibration in my hands. All right, we're going about 90 right now. I don't feel any wheel shake, but we got an off ramp, so we got to give her some rips here. I felt the flame on that one. Oh my gosh. That was a huge flame out the back. Classic merging onto a road where everyone's going 20K under the speed limit. We're gonna go 100 here. Let's see if the steering wheel shakes. Lights on for proof. Look at that, boys. She is nice and smooth. Before we flip these tires and rebalance them, this steering wheel, I'm not even kidding, on the highway would be like, like just shaking all over the place. I'm liking what I'm feeling so far, boys. This guy needs to get out of the fast lane. There's the 5th gear grind. You guys heard it. Every time I shift into 5th, dude, it grinds so bad. If I just do a light downshift into 5th, it'll still grind. Yeah, it's so bad. But the sounds that this car makes, man. Even just the blow-off valve, like the wastegate dump, the exhaust on this thing, everything is just so perfect. And that is why this car will never get sold. This thing is like the OG car to this channel. Man, this dude in front of me either has a short circuit on his brake lights or he's been riding his brakes. This part's part about having a fast car. Woo! You can pass people so easy. Oh my God. I am gonna miss that all winter, dude. Got someone going slow in front of you, you got 500 horsepower, drop a gear and frickin' disappear. This car rips, man. It is so fun to drive. I do kind of wish we could make 800 in it though. Feel like 800 horsepower in a Subaru would be fun. One day. One day we will do it. I'm gonna miss her, but we got so many exciting projects coming up and I can't wait for you guys to see them because I haven't even told you what some of them are yet.